Hello guys, so based on our previous discussion the other day, I have decided to make a video to further explain how to import data from another sheet into your spreadsheet using the import range and the process involved in querying the data to your Power BI or your Google Studio. So do well to ask questions if you have any after watching this video. Okay, so I have this data on my spreadsheet. This is the Google Sheet, and I have imported this data from another spreadsheet. This is the company's database, and this is manually inputted anyways. This is not imported from any app. The idea behind this is to avoid working on the company data source, as it were, to avoid conflicts and to avoid errors. So I have decided to import it to another spreadsheet, and what this helps me to do is that this is also going to help me to filter the data, take out duplicates, take out errors, clean up the data, and then upload it to my Google Studio or Power BI. So here I have imported the data using the import range. So if I click here, you see that I have my import range formula here equals to import range and the link to the other sheets, which is the company's database. And what am I importing? I'm importing lead time. So for example, if I have to take out the formula here, for example, you see the data disappears because it was imported. What this does is that every time the company's database is being updated, automatically my imported data gets updated. So here I have imported this data, and you see that I have follow-up sheets where I run my query. So you see that this is called the lead time sheet. On my lead 3, I have a query formula here. So I queried this data from the initial data where I made my import. And all of this, if you look at my lead 2, there's also a query formula there. I'm querying the data to different sheets, and what that helps me to do is that it is a process of filtering the data. I use one sheet to import the data from the company's database, and I'm using many other sheets to query the data to allow me filter it and come up with something, just to make sure that by the time I present it on my Google Studio, there is going to be no error at all. Because for me, as a data analyst, you cannot afford to present something that is erroneous, as it were. Okay, so basically, this is not a practical section. This is just to show us, the process of collecting data from another data source to another spreadsheet, and the process of querying the data into different sheets. So every time I query to a new sheet, I do some form of cleaning, and of course the final stage was my ML query, which is like the ready-made data that should be published on my Google Studio or Power BI. So here's my Google Studio. After the data has been properly cleaned and filtered and all of that, and then I uploaded it on my Google Studio, and this is what the data looks like. So the process of importing data from another data source is to ensure that first, you're not working on the company's database, right? And because that will cause a lot of conflicts. Most organizations have staffs who are not quite familiar with formulas and spreadsheets and all of that. And if you have to work on the database where a lot of them are working on, there's going to be a lot of conflicts. What you will do as a professional data analyst is to import your data away from where the general public is working on, import it to another spreadsheet, and then use the query formula to further query it. And of course there are other things to be done, like removing duplicates, taking out errors and all of that. I mean, after that process is being completed, you can now upload it to your Power BI or your Google Studio. So if I look at the initial raw data here that was imported from the company's data source, you wouldn't believe that is the same data that was transformed into this powerful dashboard that eventually shows us the whole company efficiency. So I hope that this makes sense. In the event that the data is not here on any spreadsheets and the data is in some sort of app, or the data is in Excel and you need to take it to the Google Sheets, I will do another video to give you a step-by-step process on how to import your data from Excel to using Dropbox and then to Google Sheets. Or in the event that the data is not on your Excel but is in some sort of app that the company is using, let's say Tally, Fodim, there are lots of them, or even the POS machine that we talked about. There's something called app scripts on the Google Sheet. Even though this is an advanced level, is something that you can do. This is a backend work to further extract data from another data source, into the Google Sheets. And for some of us who are not quite familiar with coding, as we go along with the bootcamp, I will explain further and give a little bit of knowledge on how to go about using our scripts, adding coding. For those who already understand data analysis to some level, I'll further explain how to use app scripts to spool data from different data sources, depending on what your organization is using, into your Google Sheets for proper analysis. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, the live session.